I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, March the 1st, brought to you in part by Norfenacol. It's a fluorophenocal injectable solution from Norbrook, basically a generic Nuflor. It's fast and it's not nearly as thick as regular Nuflor. Make Norfenacol your first choice to get to the bottom of BRD. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Snowflakes on fires, and it was a godsend that happened on Thursday morning. The fires that were still out of control all over the northeastern part of the Texas Panhandle for the most part, going over into Oklahoma in some cases there. And not to say that they're not having wildfires other places. I heard in northern Kansas they were having some wildfires, and earlier in the week out in Nebraska they were having some, but the ones that were happening in the northeastern part of the Texas Panhandle are the largest wildfires ever in Texas history. I mean, huge. 1 million acres of rangeland has been burned up there, and then of course lost a lot of cattle, a lot of homes, lots of equipment, vehicles and outbuildings and everything. But on Thursday morning, right on cue, and we don't get it this time of year very often, but we had a wet snow come across, and really wasn't all that forecasted, but a wet snow that come across and covered a lot of that burn up ground and kind of held the fires back a little bit. We had some higher humidity, which we never have, which also slowed the fire, and the wind laid down for a little bit. So there's still fires raging there, but they're a lot more under control than they were here in the last 2 or 3 days. But we're starting to see people come out to help. They are needing hay and feed and fencing supplies. So, but probably more than anything, and I hate to see people hauling hay hundreds and hundreds of miles. There's not a lot of future in that. It would be probably easier and more cost effective just to give a monetary donation. And there's plenty of places that you can do that. I talked to my friends up in Beaver County Stockyards. The fire did go up into Beaver, Oklahoma, into the Oklahoma Panhandle there, and Lane Conkle said it wasn't the worst up there. It was pretty bad around Slap Out, Oklahoma there, but didn't quite get up to Beaver too much. Lane said he lost a quarter section of grass, but he didn't have anything on it. No harm, no foul for the most part. But he said if there's anybody up there in the northeastern part of the Texas Panhandle or over there into Oklahoma and you need some help, if it's something you think they could help you out with, give them a call there at Beaver County Stockyards. They are more than willing to help their friends and neighbors out there with whatever they can do. But that little bit of moisture that fell on that burn up ground, I tell you what, was really, really a godsend. Not only just for kind of holding the fires back a little bit, but also I would say in 6 weeks or so it's going to be beautiful across that where it burned up, but may not be any fences or any cattle out there, but it will look nice now that we've had a little bit of moisture on there, and it's going to hold that seed in there a little bit better and at least maintain the grass that those ranchers there are really needing. And you know, they always tell you, a rancher, especially in this part of the country, you fall in love with your grass, you don't fall in love with anything else, but maybe able to maintain that grass there. But on your cattle markets, your futures backed up to cash. So we saw your February live cattle futures, which are still trading right there all the way into leap day, but settled at 184, and they're just finding targets and setting them in. I mean, it's not just a coincidence that February live cattle futures settled right at 184. Well, 184 was the extreme top of the market that we saw quoted by USDA. It was not big enough to coax anybody to want to deliver cattle because it costs $1.50 or more to do that, plus a lot of effort there. But your March feeder cattle, and that is for March, so we've still got more time to go on it. It's not completely come to fruit yet, but it's settled at 249, which is right in there close to what your real-time index is, and but closing at 249 smooth, just like your February live cattle ended at 184 smooth. Tells me that they were picking that target to settle that in on. It doesn't usually land on a square number like that, but your fats were steady this week. That is not bearish. We were thinking that the fat cattle market was going to lose a buck or so this week, and that's kind of what prompted your board to back off there late in the week, because they had fears that people were going to jump heavily on the 182, and they didn't. They waited till the 183 come out, and they jumped heavily on the 183, and that's going to be most of your market. Your weighted average could be a little bit lower, but basically it's going to be right in there steady with what it was last week. But your feeder auctions and calf auctions continue to push new highs, and we've seen it just every day over the last probably month. Your feeder cattle auctions have posted new highs compared to the previous day, and we continued to see that late in the week, right up through Thursday anyway. Probably wouldn't be surprised to see it happen here on Friday and throughout the weekend, but especially on grazing cattle. Now, some of your feeder cattle buyers might have backed off just a little bit and pushing the market any higher on cattle weighing heavy enough to go right into the feedlot, but your grazing type cattle, and grazing type cattle can get pretty sizable these days, because we're not scared to put yearlings on grass and make them weigh 1,000. So it's not a big deal to buy 6 and 7 weight stocker type cattle to turn out, and then they can continue to post new highs all over. We saw new highs on everything. On Wednesday, we saw market out west, Twin Falls Livestock Commission there in Twin Falls, Idaho. My friend Jake Billington, he shared with me that they sold a group of broken mouth heavy bred cows, but they were sure enough broken mouth. He said they would probably be 10 years and up, and those cows bring $24.50 per head. Hasn't been that long ago. That would have been a hell of a price on some young cows, but that's about as high as I ever remember older broken mouth bred cows bringing, is almost $2,500 per head. Let's talk about your board on Thursday. February live cattle futures down 65 cents at 184 smooth. April down 77 at 185.35. Your back months were down 25 to down as much as 95 cents, but not completely falling out of bed there. March feeder cattle down 60 cents at 249 even. April down $1.37 at 253.72, and your back months were all down from 37 to $1.85. So we have seen your board come back and get closer to what our cash prices are right now. And we were just talking a few days ago about how far out in front your feeder cattle futures were, and then they backed up quite a bit here. But talk about your grain futures. March corn up 2.5 cents at 4.15 3/4. March beans down 5 3/4 at 11.28 1/4 a bushel. March Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 7 1/4 cents at 6.02 3/4. How about your fat cattle trade? And it was pretty active on Thursday, and we saw trade in all your major areas there. But out of the 5-area feeding region, Iowa sold 11,000 head on Thursday, 13,300 for the week. Live price was 181 up to 184, averaging for the most part at 183 and better. Your dress trade all completely at 290. Nebraska 6,500 head on Thursday, 11,600 head for the week. Live price on Thursday 182 to 183 and a half, and a dress price all at 290 there. So in Northern Plains, we're basically steady with last week. I did have one Feeder Flash gang member text me and said that he had some really nice cattle that he sold 185 FOB to a regional. That would be an extreme top, and we did have 185 as an extreme top last week also, so it's almost entirely steady. Southern Plains, Kansas sold 1,500, but they've sold 13,700 head in Kansas. Big movement negotiated for them this week. Live price 182 to 183, and pretty much evenly spread there, and it was last week too, so that would be steady. And Texas sold 500 on Thursday, 5,000 for the week, and they've been holding mostly at 183, and they did again on Thursday with a few sales up to 183 and a quarter. Box beef cutout values continue to get a little higher as your packers continue to advertise the fact that they are slowing the chain speeds down, and so it's bringing some of your buyers of their product around a little bit, and it looks like they are going to maintain that $300 on choice cuts because it's moving on beyond that now. But choice cuts on Thursday afternoon up $1.17 at 304.20. Selects up 124 at 294.18. Your slaughter through the first 4 days of the week, not bad, 495,000. And it was well advertised that they were planning on having a slaughter this week, or a harvest of under 600,000. If that's going to happen, they're going to have to pretty much shut down on Friday. And we've heard that a lot of your major packers are going to a 32-hour week. And we'll see how much true that is here on Friday. If they have anything close to normal, it's going to be over 600,000. But 495,000 through the first 4 days of the week is not bad up through that point. It's 23,000 better than the disappointing week last week, and 4,000 less than the same week a year ago. Actual slaughter information come in for the week ending February the 17th. Had your average dressed steer carcass weight at 914 pounds. That's up 2 pounds from the previous report, and we're now recovering from the big weight loss that we saw during the bitter cold snap that happened there in January. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services, that's Dakota Moss. They are your LRP specialist, guys. He's got a lot of agents that work with him. They can all help you and answer your questions, because I know you guys have questions. Everybody I talk to has LRP questions. Call these guys, ask them the questions. Doesn't cost anything to do that. At these prices, how would you feel if the bottom completely fell out of these cattle that you're going to turn out this summer with no protection? I realize it's kind of expensive, but find out just how expensive it is. Get a hold of them. LivestockRiskServices.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Thursday, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states at 248.37. That was up another 53 cents. That's some pretty impressive sales on Thursday. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 246.26. I'm going to be going out to a bull sale this weekend. If you guys are in the area of Foss, Oklahoma, come and see me at Davis Angus on Saturday. I'll be broadcasting the sale and taking online bids for DV auction there on Saturday. Talk about your big sales on Thursday. How about Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas? 4,200 head for them. Good sale. Feeders were unevenly steady. Like I mentioned earlier, they just didn't want to push those any higher. Calves were higher. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas had 3,800 head. Grazing type cattle there, $2 to $4 higher. Feeder cattle were actually lower. Of course, you do take it with a grain of salt with your Kansas federal state market reporters, but they called the feeder weights $2 to $6 lower there in Salina, Kansas. But your national beef wire stick-out sale of the day was Mitchell Livestock Marketing in Mitchell, South Dakota. 6,100 head for them. Feeder steers were unevenly steady. Feeder heifers $4 to $7 higher. Look at this automated marker report, and it was mostly on feeder types. They didn't have a lot of light calves in Mitchell, but your best tested weights at Mitchell, South Dakota, had 503 head of 7-weight steers, average 756 at 261.49. 901 head of 8-weight steers in Mitchell had an average weight of 846 pounds, weighted average price of $243.48. That's impressive, guys. And how about 572 head of 9-weight steers at Mitchell Livestock Marketing that had a weighted average weight of 932 pounds, weighted average price of $234.76. A lot of places would have a hard time doing that on 8 weights. How about heifers? 929 head of 7-weight heifers, average 761 pounds at $234.89, and 740 head of 8-weight heifers averaged 843 at $225.48. Another big time sale, and mostly on calves, and they had a heck of a calf market at Ogallala Livestock Auction in Ogallala, Nebraska. 6,100 head for them, and calves were sharply higher. Market News called steer calves $5 to $19 higher, and heifer calves $2 to $20 higher. Of course, they had some really stick out consignments there, but look at this automated market report, and look at the best tested weights, which were mostly calves. Had 1,004 head of 5-weight steer calves, average 564 at $329.63, weighted average on over 1,000 5-weights, guys. Very impressive. Nearly 1,400 6-weight steers in Ogallala, average 643 at $303.13, and 863 head of 7-weight steer calves, average 747 at $268.26. How about the heifers in Ogallala? 545 head of 5-weight heifers, average 551 at $285.57, and 791 head of 6-weight heifers, average 648 pounds with a weighted average price of $263.72. One stick-out deal at Ogallala that was included in what I gave you was 206 steers that weighed 611 pounds and bring $325. Wow. Give you some other individual quotes from around. How about Orland Livestock Commission in Orland, California? Way out west, guys. Get a grip on this price. 64 steers in California weighed 509 and bring $361. How about Norton, Kansas? Norton Livestock Market there. They sold 52 heifer calves, weighed 524 and bring $301 for heifers, guys. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Columbus Sales Pavilion. It was 285 steers, weighed 790 and bring $262. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.